Whoa. Is anybody else having a deja vu moment? Is it just me, or were we just barely here? Yeah. Come on, 3rd District, let's hear from you. I got to have a little energy in the room. Thank you. Many of you remember the last time I stood before this convention. I promised the delegates that I would be the kind of congressman that would get things done for Utah. After only 5 short months, I'm back in front of you to return a report on those promises. I've had success in my business life, success as mayor, and now today, you get to be the judge on the success of my first few months. In my short time in Congress, I've already introduced 3 bills critical to the 3rd District. I've co-sponsored more than 40, and in what some are saying is a freshman record, I've had the opportunity to introduce, take through committee, and bring my first bill to the House floor where it passed 392 to 6. I know what you're thinking. Who are those 6? My second bill is also expected to have the same success. It's a bill to get high-speed internet across Utah's public lands so that the heavy hand of the federal government will no longer hamper economic growth in rural Utah. One of my very first votes was yes on tax reform. I was sworn in just 3 days before the vote on tax reform. But before my vote, I sat in the House chambers and made sure that I had seen every page and understood the entire 400-page bill before casting my vote. Now, I'd like to point out something here. Congress worked on tax reform for 31 years, and we passed it after I got there only after 3 days. In Utah, we balance our state budget every year. That's why I stood up to the pressure and arm wrestling of my own party and voted no on increasing the debt ceiling and no on the $1.3 trillion omnibus spending bill. As a former mayor and a business owner, I made hard decisions to consistently balance my budget, and I wasn't about to change these core values on spending back in Washington, D.C. And by the way, those same core values are why I notified the clerk not to pay me in the shutdown. No way Congress should get paid when we fail at our job. We all know committee assignments are critical for new congressmen. I worked hard to get a seat on small business. Like many of you, I was a small business owner. One of my favorite things to do is to remind my colleagues in Washington of the challenges our small business face just to keep the lights on and make payroll. My second committee assignment was equally impactful for Utah. Due to my extensive business travel and relationships overseas and living in the Middle East and Asia, I've been asked to serve on the Foreign Affairs Committee. Interestingly, it may not be a huge deal in Utah to speak Chinese, but in Washington, it's a big deal. We all know the good folks in Washington don't know much about public lands or energy production, so I was pleased when asked to represent you and serve on the Natural Resource Committee. I've worked hard to establish myself as a leader on issues where I have expertise. I've made a promise to our millennials to understand net neutrality better than any member in Congress. Now, you're smiling because the bar is so low, I know that. I'm building a coalition of congressmen who, like me, have a deep understanding of firearms and who are committed to finding effective solutions to our troubled school debate without offending the Second Amendment. Even my toughest critics here today will admit that there is no other candidate in this race, at this convention, or in the entire state that has worked harder to reach out to constituents and delegates than I have. I've held more than 50 town halls and delegate meetings all over the district. I understand that to represent you, I have to know you. I know of no better accountability than standing in front of you face to face. I'm humbled to be your congressman. It was one of the greatest honors of my life 5 months ago to raise my hand to the square on the House floor and swear to protect the Constitution. Over the past 160 days, I've done everything in my power to honorably and effectively serve you. The core values that I have carried with me throughout my life have and will continue to guide every decision I make on your behalf. Thank you.